more aware of how the enemy should be playing into them and try to play around the enemy engage. And I think with Berjaya on blue, they would give more priority to K2 getting the better AD carry, which is Caitlyn in this patch. But from my opinion, AHQ would just give this Caitlyn away to Berjaya and then answer it with because of how they trust their bot lane to be like better than Berjaya bot laners.
Yeah. I also think you can answer the Caitlyn with the Jinx. It's something we've seen globally now start to become very, very popular in that regard, though of course you are kind of anchored to that hyper carry bot lane. But some pretty interesting comps where if you just take a single tower or get a kill, you just shred through the entire enemy team. And I think that definitely that kind of snowball-centric playstyle would benefit either of these teams who have shown they are a little bit hesitant to actually close games off of single picks without a clear neutral objective to take.
Well, let's see what the plan is going to be. We've loaded on into draft. Berjaya have opted into the blue side, so we'll see whether or not they are going to get that Caitlyn. If AHQ is going to be the one to ban it out instead, though, we'll have to see, as AHQ are going to be on red. And like we didn't mention just yet, there has been no substitute. So we still have Minji in the mid lane. We still have Leaky up in top lane. So HQ still looking to give some respect over to Leaky to try and give him more stage experience in a best of series. But taking a look here toward our bans, getting rid of the Lilia as well as that Galio as well as the Graves out from Berjaya. And actually the Set going to be the one banned out here by AHQ. So opting to say, all right, you can have that Caitlyn, but we don't want you to have the Set.
I mean, he's globally a power pick, so it does make sense. A little bit unfortunate for Uniboy, though, after an MVP-worthy performance in Game 1. That being said, probably going to see this Caitlyn locked in. Yeah, cool, we get a nice AD carry for K2. My main concern, though, is that bot lane difference was not just because of the marksman. Look at Delulu matched up against Ysera. Look at how that played out. Look at the playstyle differences, the individual performance differences. It's all a little bit spooky for the side of Berjaya Dragons.
Well, I know both of you kind of, though, during our kind of break in between the two games, kind of felt like Ysera was just kind of there to soak up some damage, soak up some CC, so hopefully we can see him try and make some more plays himself. He was just there. He was doing nautilus.
He was
things.
0, 2, and 0, while the Jhin was like 3, 0, and 4.
Hey, sometimes you just gotta let that bot lane carry. We are, though, seeing Volibear being picked up by HQ, and Cabbage, you mentioned that the possibility of seeing the Enzo back on his Trundle was rather high if this was going to get locked in for AHQ.
Yeah, because I believe that Trundle is like neutralized to Volibear. Anytime he R's in the team, Trundle can just R back at him, and then from a bear it will just be like a puppy for K to just hit.
I like it. Do see, though, for Minji, he is going to be getting likely now Control Mage at Briz. It looks like we are going to get ourselves that Orianna like we saw in the previous week of playoffs.
Yeah, actually a big fan of the Orianna as the red number 3 pick. Then you just ban out 2 mid laners. Beautiful. That being said, though, still a fine pick to take here. Not a huge fan of it with the Trundle because it means your mid-jungle 2v2 is basically non-existent, especially given the fact that Volibear is really, really proficient at just making enemy melee junglers' lives hell in the isolated duels. And suddenly this game is, let's 3-man dive top, let's get our hands on something good, like a Renekton, ban out the Ornn, ban out the Mordekaiser. You seriously need to play through a side lane. And Berjaya right now, it's a little bit scary because the mid-jungle is such a huge gap from draft alone.
And we don't even get to talk about, you know, just the proficiency that we've seen from Kongyu and Uniboy. They arguably look like the best jungle mid duo in the league at times, so to have them on something that is a mix like that Volibear and that Syndra, especially going up against something like the Orianna, where we aren't going to likely see that Trundle make a whole lot of appearances, can be a bit scary. But we do see here for Leaky is going to go ahead and opt into the blind pick Renekton Cabbage.
Oh, I just feels like 4th pick Thresh would be a better pick for AHQ, and then Berjaya would respond with a Braum. But then again, locking in Renekton immediately just shows how much they want they want their bot lane to win. Yeah. Yeah.
Ozzy is not Not a GP player, sadly. GP would have been great here because it meant you could just pressure through the bot side. But yeah, he is indeed a Mordekaiser player, and this is not a champion you can play through. Suddenly, you absolutely have to play through bot lane, and...
Embrace, you make me sound a little bit sad here at this point. We are, though, going to see the Lulu come out here from AHQ as their final lock-in in the support role, Cabbage.
I like it. It's fairly good into Morgana. You can instantly pop the Black Shield with a quick help picks E to the face. But at the same time, it doesn't quite have the same push power of the Karma. Morgana, a lot of her issues are that once she's forced under tower by the enemy support, she can't actually Q because the minions are in the way. She has no pressure there. And it does mean that AHQ, despite having a pretty nice answer across the board in terms of isolated matchups, the bot lane is still a little bit up in the air for me. Cabbage, your thoughts on Lulu here?
I agree that Karma would be a better pick, given that their team already default into Volibear and Renekton, which is too strong melee. So given like that Karma speed up and the shield on the team would just help them win team fights more easy. But then again, Lulu is also pretty fine, given that I just feel like Wako is back to form, so they just believe that Wako would just win the fight, the game. I mean, yeah.
Well, we'll see here whether or not they can actually try and bounce back here, especially Berjaya. This team ended up finding some hints of glory during that first game via the top lane. Unfortunately, Ozzy was not able to translate that elsewhere on the map, so we'll see whether or not this new face, this new identity to say, all right, we're going to play through K2, our more consistent player, put him on the Caitlyn, get that first pick up on blue side, and see whether or not that is going to be the case. Or is Wako and Ysera looking to shut them down? Is AHQ are looking to go 2-0 and take the game to match point in Game 3? Cabbage, thank you for joining us. We'll see you during the post game, but for now, let's load on to the Rift for our second game of the day.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
I just heard a button get pressed. It sounded kind of menacing there, Briz. You all right? Did you pull the lever or push the right button?
I thought it would get drowned out, but hey, it was my manual microphone unmuting button. You know,
yeah.
Sometimes you gotta take a glass of water right next to the microphone. You don't want it picked up when you go at the end of your nice long sip.
Oh boy.
We've all been there.
As Cabbage is worried that his mic is picking up because he's literally taking a drink of water right now. Briz doesn't actually see this, so I just see Cabbage like laughing and going, oh, did I just do that? Did that get picked up? Nonetheless, let's mosey on over here into Game 2. Berjaya Dragons, we mentioned, top side of the map. It looked a little bit promising coming out from Ozzy in that Jax matchup. Unfortunately, though, Leaky was still able to find himself a CS lead. So the plan here looks like the change-up is being, all right, we want to play through this bot lane. We want to try and get K2 ahead. This time around, though, you're going to go up against Waka, who's now going to have that pocket Lulu in his arsenal for the entirety of this game.
Yeah, absolutely that. And Opal, I don't know how many parties you went to back in the day, but this Trundle, basically your old friend that you don't see for a while, comes out of nowhere, drinks all of your drinks, and then just pieces out. Enso on this champion. Yes, it's reliable to a degree. Yes, it's something we've seen this team find success with, but before finding successes,
it's seen a lot of failures.
Yeah, it's familiar. It's a familiar sight. And yet, at the same time, I can't be excited to see it unless this is the one time it pops off.
Yeah, we've always mentioned with Enzo, he's kind of embodied the one-trick Trundle approach when it came to summer. I believe he had 9 games during the regular season on the champion.
And like 2 wins.
And yes. 2 wins. The stats don't matter, all right? It's the heart, okay, Abriz? Anything can happen here in playoffs. I'm interested to see now this top lane too. Leaky's actually got himself on something like a Renekton up against this Mordekaiser. This is pretty neutralized lane, but we'll see whether or not Leaky can find himself an advantage similar to what we saw on the Camille, even when he was down a kill.
Yeah, do have to note that the Renekton will smash that isolated 1v1 early, but post level 6 does become a little bit more of a tall order to dive the Mordekaiser when he does have access to the Death Realm. I do want to mention the fact that Berjaya, we said they want to play through bot, isolate a side lane because mid 2v2 is doomed, and yet at the same time, exhaust heal, that is a very, very safe bot lane summoner choice for Berjaya compared to, again, an even safer choice for the side of AHQ. How are you going to play through bot lane when they're just getting pushed in 24/7?
Not the prettiest of situations to be in. We'll have to see, though, if we get to see, Enzo actually make an appearance. We do, sometimes meme a little bit for Enzo, but when he is on fire, he does actually have really good performances on the champion, but we'll see if that case is actually going to be true, because you do see Delulu already down to half health. A lot of aggression already coming out from Wako, which, again, it looks like he's back in form compared to what we saw during the first week of playoffs, where he was a little bit sick, and if it's anything to go off our first game, if he was just getting warmed up, I'm afraid to see what he is once he's online.
Yeah, and looking over at his counterpart, I did kind of mention that you want to play through bot for Berjaya, but at the same time, they have no real clear lane to play through if this Caitlyn doesn't pop off. They have no real win condition throughout the early game, and it does mean you're basically banking on Orianna Caitlyn getting to 25-30 minutes untouched. Enzo now ganking top, but that is the only lane that you absolutely cannot gank. All you'll get is maybe like 2 extra CS for the Mordekaiser. A ward even was there. Berjaya have no clear lane to gank. They're basically saying, look, let's get 3 items on Orianna, 3 items on Kate, and then do something. AHQ, full dominion, free reign when it comes to moving around the map in this early game.
And that's scary, because you're giving this over to Kongya as well as Uniboy. Arguably, that looked to be the two best, the best jungle mid combo. We already see Kongya saying, all right, you know what, if he's going to go toward the top side of the map, I'll just happily take myself a free dragon very early on here on the Volley Bear with those lanes getting pushed in, and even any kind of objective control is going to be non-existent from Enzo. A nice route, though, coming out from Delulu is able to force out the cleanse there from Wako before the trap can connect.
Yeah, had to cleanse there, otherwise could have found himself trapped under tower, which is never really a position you want to be in. Quick exhaust would have followed as well, and that all-in was pretty damn beautiful. That being said, though, yeah, cleanse kind of puts a dent in the plans. Now, do we see Berjaya actually take advantage of Wako's lack of that summoner spell in the next 3 minutes, though? Do we see them finally start to play for the side lane, or do we see them just chill, give a couple more Drakes, couple more Rift Heralds, and hope like hell we can reach the 25 to 30 minute mark without being completely shut out of this game?
So what you're telling me here, if I'm a Berjaya Dragons fan, like you, Briz, you want to see Enzo make an appearance down here, get down that pillar, and try and cause some havoc as Wako's going to get caught out, forcing out the flash. In comes the double teleport, though, from our top laners. A nice first blood, though, going in favor. Leaky trying to get that slice and dice onto the member, but instead, he gets brought back as Ozzy followed him all the way down and brings him into the death realm. Leaky, though, able to keep himself alive, but no, it's not going to be the case as Enzo finds himself the second kill in the fight.
Good proactive play coming through from Enzo there. He makes his rotation down. Yes, he's not on the bottom half of the map while the dragon is up, but he is there immediately afterwards. The surprise trundle to the face and a good stacking of CC from Berjaya there. Delulu waits out the flash from Wako before following with a flash of his own into the instant binding. This Jhin doesn't get to move for the better part of 10 seconds. Pillar, binding, and Leaky comes in for the attempted cleanup, only to get cleaned up himself. Ozzy, good follow. Berjaya, good answer. And Berjaya now just rocking with K2 firmly in control. Oh man,
all right.
Enzo got both those kills.
Yeah, that's the only thing here, Briz, that I'm a little bit concerned about is Enzo. He might be a Trundle 1 trick, but he's also a bloodthirsty Trundle 1 trick. The games that we have seen him pop off, It's because usually he's the only one on his team getting the kills here. So that is, I guess, kind of the little asterisk here in the situation for Berjaya. He probably wanted to give some of those kills on over to K2 and get this Caitlyn rolling. She does at least get assist gold, but it's not the end of the world when Enzo's the one picking up the gold here for AHQ. So similar to what we saw in our previous game. Again, early strike from Berjaya. Are they able to translate any of this, though, into a further gold lead?
Time will tell here as you do see them looking to try and contest the Herald, but delayed on the rotation. Still waiting for their solo laners to join. Can pinch, can pincer. AHQ need to be super careful. Shockwave is up.
Oh, Minji, though, gets the lead. It is Kanye ends up picking up his target. Waka once again positioning a little bit suspect, though, as he gets taken on down. Leaky gonna pop his ultimate. Wants to slice his dice his way into that backline. In comes Kanye with the Stormbringer and is able to get the kill on over to Uniboy once again. Rips Herald, though, resets. Enzo jumps back with the blasting cone. That's not what you want to do. Leaky finds himself a shutdown. Ysera able to soak up the damage, but K2 is able to find the kill. Leaky now into the 1v1 up against Ozzy. The stun, though, lands, and Kanye is able to find himself the kill. K2, the lone survivor of Berjaya Dragons.
Yeah, but Uniboy's a little bit out of mana, so the Caitlyn alone is enough to deter this. Minji alive again with Shockwave in pocket, but Leaky is still contesting this one. AHQ still looking for Berjaya, who are looking themselves for this Herald. Okay, they're backed up. Nice.
Okay.
Really good pickup there.
Let's take a look back
what a
here. The
skirmish.
chaos that ensued here. Kanye with that flash engage, but then Wako, similar to what we saw last week, a little bit out of position.
Alright, if Wako didn't get MVP after game 1, I can certainly tell you he's not getting it this game. Yeah, the Shockwave was lined up to be beautiful, but the QE from Uniboy, Syndra's this series so far, have been on point with the team fight defining Scatter the Weeks. Really stellar play there. Unfortunately, same cannot be said for the rest of this. Overstays, weird commitments, awkward dances around with no mana and no real case for a fight, does mean that Berjaya can actually take the prolonged play, get the Herald for themselves, and start to accelerate this into a mid-game point of contention.
Yeah, it's a little bit scary when Caitlyn's able to pick up a couple turret plates early on like this, and like that as well. Should be able to pick up first brick gold. So for Berjaya, even though they are now only just equaling out the gold, a lot of that has been funneled into this Caitlyn. So we'll see whether or not they're able to materialize this into a further gold lead. As again, Shelly going to go ahead and get that second charge in onto the second tier tower. Leaky can't do anything about this.
Yeah, decent amount of pressure coming out in favor of Berjaya here. Granted, it's top lane, it's not really a lane you pay much attention to because, hey, once you take those outer turrets, it's a bit of a commitment to actually make the play for the third one. Ooh, could get a third charge. Okay, we take those. They will lose another Drake for it, though, because they did commit pretty heavily towards top side. And suddenly Berjaya, despite having a good case for a mid-game for themselves, could find themselves pushed to a win condition in that Ocean Soul.
So a little bit concerning there. Poor Leaky kind of has to watch his lane just kind of crumble, but he'll be fine just trying to soak up that up. Meanwhile, Ozzy's going to transition back down toward the bot lane because for AHQ, they were able to at least get a turret onto the Jhin at the end of that play. So you get at least Wako some gold into his pocket, but at the moment, not ahead in lane. And like I mentioned, this is a rare instance for Wako. Rarely do we see him in this position, as K2 is the first one to get a completed item with that Infinity Edge online.
Super crucial to see the Caitlyn doing well here because she was first picked. It does mean we maybe now see AHQ default to having to ban that out more often than not, and it should be the litmus test for if K2 can drag this team over the finish line. Minji, on a champion he's comfortable with again as well, does suggest that Berjaya, come these mid-game team fights where their carries are strongest, should be able to take this game over and should hopefully be able to close. But because they don't have a single Drake, it means the Dragon Soul isn't a win condition for them, and we should see Berjaya just bank on a quick and easy Baron secure once the big objective has spawned.
We'll see if that's going to be the case, though. AHQ Starting to rotate into that mid lane. Already seeing a little bit of that ARAM. Leaky with a flank, though. Comes in and joins in onto the party. W is not going to land as Delulu's able to get himself safe. In comes that shockwave. And poor Leaky, he's got nowhere to run. It's a bouncy castle in the side of the river as he gets pulled around, tossed around. Ozzy able to escape, but in comes that current call. First shot going to land. Second one finds its target. Third one and fourth not going to land, though. And the health bar is just a little bit too healthy on the side of Berjaya Dragons, but we do see AHQ trying to get that force here in mid lane and trying to get at least another turret plate over to Wako.
Was that a fight around Drake, but Drake wasn't up? But were they contesting Drake vision 3 minutes before the dragon had spawned?
I'm not sure what Leaky tried to do, and he
What?
didn't teleport. He came up from the river and decided to go for a flank, but they weren't actually able to get
Why are they
anything
all
off this.
pouring down bottom river anyway? What? Like, okay, I guess the play was for bot lane tier 1. But actually, good play by AHQ to trade back for mid lane tier 1. Still very confusing that this fight happened at the point of time that it did. Granted, Berjaya, though, they walk away with free kill. They don't actually lose the tier 1 mid. They do give away a couple of plates, but hey, happy days. And there is the further commitment towards the catalyst of that play. The gold, the extra gold, and the extra tower from this tier 1 bot.
You see 9 turret plates, a majority of that has been put onto K2, so up to K2 to have some good positioning during these team fights, as he is kind of the sole carry when it comes to Berjaya at the moment. We're still waiting for Minji to kind of come online himself, as Wako going to go ahead and at least pick up a turret for himself, as he has just opted to say nope in that matchup and doesn't wish to be in the same lane as K2.
Funny how you should mention that Caitlyn got a lot of those plates, considering we saw Trundle pop the Herald top, and Trundle help melee down the plates in the bottom lane too.
Enzo really likes gold, okay, Empress?
Yeah, well, there's Trundle laughing all the way to the bank. What's he gonna spend it on? Knight's Vow? Okay, fine. Pour all of your resources into the Caitlyn basket, because K2 looked pretty stellar so far this game after a fairly uninspiring game 1.
And I kind of have to now start to question a little bit here for AHQ, because they obviously are our favorites, but we're starting to see elements of their early game kind of fall apart. And this is at times where we felt AHQ were sometimes at their strongest. We mentioned their jungle mid duo looking to be sometimes the best in the league between Kongyu and Uniboy, where their early game, usually going for plays before that, 20-minute mark, is rather frequent. This time around, though, and especially in this series, we're not seeing it as often, and Berjaya aren't afraid to try and take that opportunity. The nice guy of the week, though, comes out from Uniboy, forcing the Black Shield early from the side of Berjaya. Kongyu's maybe even looking for a fight here. AHQ aren't afraid to try and take this, even when they are technically down at this point.
Yeah, could just see a big 5v5 around that Ocean Drake. As we said, not necessarily a win condition from Berjaya, but one they'd like to deny from AHQ, as they are already up 2 Drakes and could find themselves in a good position to take this fight.
Uniboy is starting to get some good scatter of the weeks. We do see at least, though, Berjaya are going to try and do what they can to get themselves some pressure. A nice binding, though, forces Kongyu to have to back off. Enzo, though, gotta be careful. Wako soaks up the shockwave, but he's fine at this point on the Jhin, still sitting at about 80% health. As Berjaya starting to slowly get funneled down the rivers, K2 wants to try and lay down that ward line. Ozzy, though, popping that ultimate, able to bring Kongyu into the death realm. Another scatter of the week, finds 2 targets. Minji goes down low. Enzo almost follows through himself. Kongyu now gets himself back to safety as the Lulu ultimate's going to pop as he comes back out of the death realm. Curtain call used by Wako. There's so many damn ultimates just being thrown left and right here, but no one falls. Uniboy, though, has to be careful as you saw that headshot damage. And Berjaya are on the wrong side of the map.
I mean, wrong side of the map, but also kind of the right one. As you notice, everyone but the Lulu is out of mana. The Lulu, sorry, not the Lulu. Ysera on the Lulu. Okay, I don't know how I only just made that one now, but alright. Regardless, Drake being started up, some mana being pulled back, but Berjaya on the defensive.
Leaky doesn't have flash to go for this engage. He did teleport back, so he has himself full health. Ozzy, though, gonna just walk up and try and do what he can. It looks like, though, it's the steal coming out from Enzo. He's able to get the smite down, and Kongyu, he's gonna want that one back as they also lose Leaky.
Yeah, Enzo actually down a level, by the way, so a huge, well, I say huge, it's a pretty big secure. It's not quite the soul, but it is some footing back because it shuts out that mid-game soul win condition for a little bit longer, and it puts Berjaya back on the board. Yes, they had a bit of a creative pathing to this. Yes, the fight was weird to take because everybody was out of mana, and yet they still managed to find this one. Big attempt at a flank from Leaky. Again, though, the Renekton just gets picked off.
How does Enzo actually get away with this? Kongya, he just walked up. That's all he did. Kongya ended up missing his smite. It was on cooldown, so he's going to want that one back. And for AHQ, they were in prime position to set up for that Ocean Soul win condition on the next spawn, but now it gets delayed by Berjaya.
Yeah, now looking at Berjaya's state of the game right now, we said 25-30 minutes, the golden hour, the time where everything needs to happen for them, and they're at a good point towards getting towards that, honestly. You have Ludens for Orianna, level 11 as well. That's the super hyped Syndra power spike, but it's also a good position for the Orianna. Caitlyn, 2 items, kind of a lull because attack speed, not really the best scaling for her because of her stats, but still pretty beautiful all things considered. And once you hit 3 to 4 items, expect the carries of Berjaya to just run this one home.
So if you're AHQ now, Riz, what am I expecting from this team to try and at least stall out the bleeding here from Berjaya? I don't think it's this, as Delulu's able to get himself a nice catch. That's going to be the ultimate as well as the binding. Kongya, though, uses his own ultimate to get himself back to safety. Shielding, though, coming out from the Lulu, who's able to keep himself safe. That's going to be a teleport. In comes Uniboy, who's able to find himself a flank, but is not able to find himself a kill. And now Leaky needs to start running as Ozzy's looking to try and hunt him back on down. Grass is going to be there. Lulu ultimate comes down, but unfortunately for Leaky, he's going to have to get himself back to safety, but it's just not going to happen. K2 stepping on forward over toward Wako. Leaky, though, able to get himself to the blast cone and gets himself to safety, as meanwhile Shelly's joined in onto the fight. Berjaya Dragon looking to hunt down the Renekton Kongya, as well as now Uniboy if he's not careful. But there you go, catches out Minji with the unleashed power. Delulu not able to finish it off. Ysera flashing on forward, gets himself the shielding to prevent K2 from getting himself the kill. And now Kongya running it through the top lane. What the hell am I watching, AHQ? Because this is an utter mess.
Yeah, really weird that Waka was coming in from the flank from the enemy jungle as well. Just complete scatter from AHQ, but the chaos is where Berjaya thrive. Fight on multiple fronts across multiple periods of time. Just really huge commitment from both of these teams that doesn't result in too much of anything. Berjaya, they have a fairly hefty pick comp. You were telling me, what can AHQ do to get back into this one? Take a big 5v5, take a big skirmish, just not in Berjaya's comfort zone. It looked like a good flank from Uniboy, but that was the worst Syndra QE we've seen all series long. Arzi gets in the mix of things as well. Really, really clean Mordekaiser. Unfortunately, the Renekton lives with like 5 HP. And honestly, Berjaya pleasantly surprised with how well they're playing this. Minji's Shockwave, by the way, we kind of missed it because all the action happening on the top of the screen. Hit 2 people, knocked down Kongyue and Uniboy, that dangerous duo of AHQ almost single-handedly. And Berjaya, surprisingly competitive after a game 1 stomp.
Can I just say I love Ysera flashing in on that Lulu, just trying to get that shield on down toward Uniboy.
He got it. He got it.
Down.
He did it.
He did it.
Yeah.
Mission accomplished. But arguably, I think this is the messiest game we have seen from AHQ in a long while. On top of this, too, do note that Uniboy has opted to go into the Spellbinder route, so he's looking for that just extra burst of damage onto the next team fight, as well as Leaky opted to go in for the Bork completion. So just trying to go into that side lane and be a nuisance. Berjaya, though, grouping up as 5 once more here in the mid lane.
Definitely looking at Berjaya as having the onus here, as they can set up for a nice pick between Morgana Q, Trundle Pillar, Orianna Shockwave, Caitlyn Trapline. As long as they move to an objective first, they have a very, very good setup to make it so that AHQ absolutely cannot check into them. Good poke out though. Delulu
gets caught out. There you go. The third and fourth shot not going to be needed. In comes Kanya though, trying to go for the very late steal. Two-man shockwave comes out from Minji, able to interrupt the back end of the fight. AHQ though, unable to secure the dragon as Berjaya are able to walk away with it, only losing the one member.
Can AHQ just run it towards this Baron though? They've cracked open mid lane tier 1. They can let themselves breathe a little bit, or they can make the hero play happen. TP for Minji, no shockwave does mean the Orianna cannot teamfight this. Berjaya, how are they going to respond?
Leaky's opted actually to try and act as that flank duty, acting as that buffer, and not actually getting onto the Baron. So this is a rather slow take coming out from AHQ. Wako is only a Jhin right now with 2 items, so it's not the fastest in the world, but we'll see whether or not Leaky can find his flank. That's not going to be Scout a weak landing, but in comes Kanya, gets that stun on down. Death Realm going to be used in onto the Volibear. Delulu tries to hit the point blank Q, ends up missing. Meanwhile, though, Kanya just gets taken on down. The Sky of the Week ends up splitting the upright. Shockwave ends up missing, and it's bloody messy both sides of the map here. Leaky, though, gets back into the action, trying to go for the 1v1 against Enzo, but it's going to turn into a 2v1 as Ozzy comes back in from the river. And like that, fight is going to dissipate, but this is rather ugly on both sides of this map.
Berjaya pretty happy with how that turned out. Not only did they stop the Baron, but they get some footing back around this middle of the map. You crack open that tier 1, you push it out, and suddenly they have a convincing case for some Baron power plays of their own. The only spell that needed to hit did hit in that fight though, and that was the Death Realm onto Kongyue. Had AHQ continued with the Baron, that would have been Berjaya's way back in, and even if they stopped it, it's still a good cleanup from Ozzy here. The Mordekaiser doing work, even if everybody else kind of let themselves down.
That's the shockwave Minji's going to want back as ends up fanning there. And this is, again, for AHQ, it just feels very disjointed at the moment. It feels like Leaky's trying to find some hero entrance, trying to make that miracle play happen, but again, this is kind of the issue we've seen with Renekton time and time again, is if he tries to jump into 4 members, if there's any CC available, he just gets popped instantly and turned into a purse. AHQ, though, maybe looking to try and catch out Delulu. Delulu's been that one member of Berjaya that's been caught out consistently so far in this game, but gets himself back to safety.
Yeah, a lot of our criticism of Delulu throughout the regular split was that on the likes of your Nautilus, your Thresh, he would just go for random deep invades, contest for vision, where he had no real business to do so. He'd go alone, part of that's on the team, part of that's on him. This time around doesn't get caught out, but still, it looked a little suspect, as you correctly identified, and it could look suspect again. He got chunked out around Drake. Can he get chunked out here?
Uniboy gets taken on down. The shielding, it's not going to be enough as the headshot comes on through. That's a shutdown going on over to K2. And now Leaky tried to do the exact thing I said into the back members of 4, but Ozzy brings him into the Death Realm and says, "You're coming back home with me, buddy," as Ozzy goes back onto a rampage, and HQ now down 2 members.
Can this be another victory for Enzo Trundle? Can it be the pocket pick of the Berjaya jungler showing up huge? The rest of the team, the solo laners, Shockwave, Death Realm, it's all there, but all the cooldowns were blown. Can HQ fight this one out?
Wako needs to try and make a miracle play here on this Jhin. Instead, though, he gets caught out, able to kite himself back to safety. Ace in the Hill, though, will almost take him down as Minji flashing on forward, trying to finish him off with that Orianna Q. Teleport, though, going to come back in from Uniboy. Kern Call going to be used. Baron is secured only by Minji. Unfortunately, Uniboy ends up running onto a trap, and HQ cannot prevent anyone from taking down the Baron. That's going to be Berjaya with Baron buff in hand now for the next couple minutes.
I had a mini heart attack watching the Orianna secure the Baron there as the Jhin Jhin ult came through. The Syndra flashes out of the shockwave, out of the epicenter, but gets tagged by the edge of it, pulled back in, burst down through the Lulu ultimate, and it was disgusting to watch how much damage was pumped out of the Berjaya carries at this point. We said 3, 4 items, the magic number here. 2 on the Orianna is all she needs. 3.5 for the Caitlyn. K2 is massive, and Berjaya have so much going for them right now with a Baron buff with pushing waves, with siege comp galore. They're just waiting it out for that third ocean of the game before they make a big commitment for a turret.
You see there, K2 can just walk up and get a nice auto attack as well, and he's able to get decent chunks in onto AHQ. Leaky toward the side is only going to get spotted out by Ward though, as he has to back off. And Berjaya now assaulting on two fronts, as Ozzy is just going to escort those minions down from the bot lane. We'll see if Leaky wants to try and respond. He does see though that immediately that Mordekaiser is going to be there, and K2 can easily just take him on down. Leaky!
Oh,
no
man.
reason to be there as K2 chunks him down alongside Ozzy.
That was disgusting. The Caitlyn is dealing so much damage, and actually Berjaya is saying, look, we don't need a third Ocean Drake, we will just take an inhibitor.
An inhibitor's gonna fall
game.
down here for AHQ.
Or the game.
They're just still going. AHQ, they were able to at least secure the Drake. We do see, though, K2 able to get some decent amount of damage. Uniboy ends up having a Lulu ultimate on him as he comes out of the fountain. Not too sure what happened there. Wako trying to step on forward, but AHQ, a bit of a mess here in this game. K2 just has eyes only for that Nexus tower. Nexus now exposed. AHQ, the upset might be here for Berjaya Dragons as they're looking to try and turn it on back. They flash in underneath behind, and unfortunately, AHQ can do absolutely nothing, trying to hold the base, and oh my god, that Nexus will not fall as AHQ were able to hold on.
Double kill.
What? Wait, what was Isera 1v1ing Minji throughout that, by the way? Was that really the difference maker here? Was that really the reason AHQ lived with a single auto attack worth of health on their Nexus?
Oh.
Was it worth the third Ocean Drake? Was it worth securing that in exchange for all of that? Signs point to no, and actually I'm still perplexed by this Orianna getting held off by a single Lulu throughout all of this. Berjaya, the tremendous commitment, the gutsy call, it almost pays off, it almost happens, and yet, if they lose this game, that will be the heartbreaker.
I already have a little bit of a heartache off that one there, so now Berjaya Dragons, they were one auto attack away from taking down AHQ here down in game 2. AHQ get a small little bit of life back into this roster, I guess you could say, by making that hold actually happen. Base, though, is scarred heavily on the bot side of the map. They do see that Baron power play a little bit into the negative. AHQ now 3 minutes, though, on the board. Will they actually be able to secure the next Ocean Drake and actually secure Ocean Soul, or is the risk of their base being exposed too much of a hassle and they'll have to give it up?
You want to know why that's a negative, by the way? Because they gave away huge shutdowns on K2. I think there was a fairly hefty one on Ozzy, maybe a solid one on Enzo 2. And I went from hyped to confused to hyped some more. And it looks like Berjaya going to keep up the pressure here, looking for that top lane inhib. This tower, they cracked open at like 10 minutes into the game, finally being cashed in upon as they look to crash these waves. Wait for bot lane to build, wait for Ozzy to push up mid, and then just cleanly look for that close. Berjaya firmly in control.
Control here as Uniboy can't do much else as that tower is going to fall. K2 using that ace in the hole, just trying to get a little bit of damage down, but that will be it. You do have to worry, though, HQ, there is still heavy burst potential available, but the question becomes, can anyone actually get forward enough? Wako, that's aggressive. Actually walking into pretty much ball range of Minji. That's going to be current call being used, just trying to clear out the wave, it seems, here, alongside Uniboy. Leaky also on the bot side of the map. Fourth bullet going to be used, not going to find its mark, though. And there you are, Berjaya not able to actually siege in onto the inhibitor, but no towers remain now on the side of AHQ, outside of the
And
mid
again, we're seeing kind of a big criticism we had of Berjaya, where without a clear neutral objective to take or snowball a fight off of, a little bit lost for when it comes to actually closing things out. Yes, they can make a play for the inhib. Yes, they can wait for their super minions to crash, but it feels like they're just buying time for this next Drake in 1 minute. But do you coin flip a team fight around that Dragon Soul, or do you go for a big, bad Mordekaiser backdoor?
See what the plan is going to be here. Is Enzo and Delulu just going to go ahead and run over the Wako trap? So they have an idea of what is being set up here by Berjaya. Plenty of pings coming out. We'll see that started up here as K2 can actually sneak this one over the wall with that Caitlyn. Looks like AHQ. Are they actually going to be able to get in range here? This is scary. Delulu able to run interference. K2 could easily turn back. Wako has to be careful and not get caught out by a shockwave. Double teleport going to come out from AHQ. Wanting to try and stop this one on back. Ozzy pops his ultimate immediately onto Ozzy. Maybe a little bit too aggressive over the wall. It's going to be Uniboy not able to secure it. Instead, it is Minji. But again, Enzo not able to get his smite off in time, and AHQ almost stole a Baron.
I actually do feel bad for Enzo there, though, because at this point of the game, Syndra full combo actually out DPS's the smite. And yeah, it is the Orianna, as we mentioned. Really, really good by Berjaya to secure that one, even if Ozzy got a little bit overambitious trying to shut out that volley there. But speaking of overambitious, we've seen this before. Leaky, what are you doing?
Gotta be careful. That's a miss Minji shockwave. In comes possibly the ultimate from Kongyu. Wants to try and get that action going. AHQ need to step on forward. They need to back up the rest of their team.
They go
but it's
Wako!
just not gonna happen. Wako able to get himself back. Uniboy finds the kill onto Enzo. Unfortunately, it's still not enough damage to take down this Jhin. And now it's gonna be current call being popped here by Wako. Enzo, though, not having to worry about this Drake as he's already dead. And luckily for his team, they're able to secure it, prevent it from going on in. Meanwhile, though, Inhibitor being sieged upon here by Supers.
You remember in Season 3 when everyone told me Malzahar was a bad champion because he suppresses himself when he suppresses someone, because he just kind of stands there rooting them in place? Jhin does the same thing when he channels W. He looks for the snare, snares himself, buys time for the Caitlyn to close the gap, and just free cast on him. He even walks on a trap for good measure, gets hooked in, flashes out. Cool, but it's just not a good position for Wako to fight in, and it does mean AHQ, despite finding Enzo, cannot find too much more, and now find themselves again pushed with their backs against the wall.
And for AHQ, this shakiness, it seems, with this roster. Leaky seeing his first time of a little bit of play ever since the halfway point of summer after he was subbed in for Ziv this entire first half of the summer split. Unfortunately, the first game looked all right. The second game, though, has looked disastrous, especially on this Renekton. I hate to say it. He's tried to go for these miracle flanks, but again, you're Renekton. Learn your limits. PCS, stop picking Renekton. I'm already done with it at this point.
I mean, AHQ is supposed to be one of the top side dominant teams of the league, and yet they haven't played through the Renekton, be it Ziv on it, be it Leaky on it. Just kind of leaving that in isolation as a weak side top laner, as it were. Minji, though, being a strong side Orianna, looked for a flank of his own.
Kongyu forced to use his ultimate to get back to safety. That's not going to be available now for this ensuing fight if Berjaya Dragons just decides to walk into the base, which at this point they might as well can. We saw Wako getting chunked down to a second, 2/3 of his health. Base now being sieged upon. Minji getting caught out toward the side. Shockwave's going to land on Uniboy. Oh no. Oh no, that is not the play you need to go here now as HQ. They're able to catch out that Orianna, and now Engage from the current call, able to find slows. We'll see whether or not, though, Berjaya can turn it back, but you see that damage that comes out. Uniboy forced to use his ultimate. The Unleashed Power, though, cannot find it. K2, though, still with that GA, stepping on forward, and Wako gets taken down by Delulu. Uniboy follows, and it's just too damn late for AHQ as K2 fully online, fully capable, and the Nexus in his sights as Berjaya Dragons able to tie up this series 1-1. No miracle hold this time. It's 2 versus 4. Leaky's going to get taken on down. He's going to get put into the ground. 1-7-6 on a Renekton. Doesn't do anything. And the series tied 1-1.
And the game was 6 minutes longer than it had to be, but Berjaya still carry it home. They get their picks, they get their neutral objectives, and more importantly, they get their big explosive fights. Uninspiring shockwaves on the latter half of that, but Minji doing so much work in the early to bridge K2 into 1v9 hyper carry territory.
And Cabbage, that itself was a a rather ugly game, I think, if you're an AHQ fan. Give me a little bit of a run back here. What do you think was the overarching issue here for this team in Game 2?
I think the biggest issue with AHQ losing this game is what their mistakes in their Phase 2 draft, where they already banned Lux and Bart, but then up to first Renekton. I mean, like first picking your top laner into the enemy, which would have been better given that you already banned 2 supports. You can just get another supports and then give Leaky the counter top matchup so that he can just like have a good lane against Aji. But instead they opt into like Renekton, and then they just feels like they want to trust their bot lane to carry. But what they opt themselves into was they have 2 close range top and then jungle, which is Renekton and Volibear, into like
Caitlyn Morgana. How do you
Caitlyn
close the gap
Morgana,
onto Caitlyn Morgana with
Orianna.
that? Yeah,
yeah.
exactly that.
It was not pretty, Briz. It was not pretty.
This Caitlyn did so much work later on. We said Orianna's shockwaves kind of uninspiring on the tail end of that. A couple of them whiffed, a couple of them just, yeah. But the rest of Berjaya did a lot of work for the mid game, for the early game, and just got K2 in a position where he is 3-tapping everybody. Do have to shout out, by the way, Delulu, his binds were on point in this game, be it in lane phase to set up the Trundle snowball, or be it actually later on throughout that last fight. Yes, K2 did the damage, did the flashy plays, but it was the quietly consistent supportive lineup around him that really set up this Caitlyn for success.
And there you go. MVP for Game 2 is going to be K2 himself for Berjaya Dragons. So congratulations on to him, as well as that squad, as they are able to now tie up our series. And again, the magnitude of that sentence. This is, of course, our 8th seed going up against our 2nd seed of Summer. And I now have to kind of present the question to you, Cabbage. Do we see Ziv now come in here for the side of AHQ?
I think with Save, like if we take, for example, if he was on Game 2, this Volibear would have been a flex pick, whereas they can just put Volibear either on top or jungle, and then pick a new jungler for a Kongyue, so that he can play around Syndra more. But, well, I don't blame game entirely on Leaky, even though he's like 1 and 6, because the draft put him on that spot. AHQ has no real engage at all. It's like if you miss Syndra QE, then that's it. They can't engage at all. Yeah. So that's the reason why Leaky was put in a position where he needs to like flank from behind always. And with Trundle on the enemy team, they can just like negate off, Renekton engage, and then just roll from that point.
Yeah, it's rather difficult there, Briz, for AHQ. So we'll see maybe if we get some draft changes.
I mean, not only think about this game in isolation, how dominant it looked from Berjaya, trading back there, but also take a step back. This is an elimination series.
Elimination series, and it's tied 1-1. We turn it now to a best of 3. We'll see whether or not Berjaya can continue on this trend, or if AHQ are going to see the return of the king up in the top lane come Game 3. Stick around, PCS will be right back.
CTBC Bank is Taiwan's top financial institution, but we're not stopping there. We're crafting an international brand and already have over 260 outlets in 14 countries. We are by your side, ready to embrace the future.